What's going on, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Good to see you. Good to finally meet you.
Yeah, good to chat. Where is it that you're based?
I'm in Kurdistan, Iraq. So I'm in the Middle East. It's about 8 a.m., 9 a.m. here.
Ah, wow. Um,
How about you? How about you?
I'm in New Zealand. It's 7 p.m. for me. Pretty much opposites.
Wonderful. You're winding down for the evening.
Mm, mm. I've never spoken to, I think, anyone definitely living in or like from the Middle East. Were you born there?
No, so I'm very much Canadian. Like I was born in Athens, Greece. When I was just a baby, 1 years old, not even one, we moved to Toronto, Canada. Raised Canadian. I'm ethnically, my parents are from here. So we're immigrants, but I'm trying to make a more devoted effort to be familiar with my heritage, my culture, and build a business over here through ATG, through um, whatever sort of online passive incomes. But that's the goal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't have that connection anymore. Like they don't know much about ancestry or like what got them to the point where they're currently at even. And so that's fascinating. Are you living in the area that your family came from?
Yeah, so on my mom's side, my mom's definitely from the town I'm in. It's called Slimani, and my dad is from, I'd say it's more like a village than a town. It's about an hour's away from here. It's called Khanakeen. So I haven't been there. I've driven through it, but it's very small, and I'm very much open to, that kind of off-grid living. So we'll see someday. But definitely going back there. I'm in the process of actually securing my Iraqi passport. So that would be good to have, all three. Eventually, I can get my Greek as well. So a few
What are
options.
the languages spoken over there?
It's Kurdish, so it's a mixture. It's its own language, but it's very much a crossover between Farsi and Arabic. But we have our own dialect. We're our own sort of ethnic people and culture. We have our own dress, our own language. It's just we don't have our sovereign independence. So it belongs, the region we're in belongs to Iraq, but Kurdistan is big. It spreads throughout Armenia, Jordan, Syria, Iran, Iraq. So it's a big geographical land.
Yeah, when did you start trying to expose yourself to and become a part of your culture?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've always kind of felt, and even my parents, when we came to Canada, they made a devoted effort to kind of raise us Canadian. I'm a born Muslim, but I've never really been religious at all. I was, eating ham and cheese sandwiches as a kid. I never went to church. Um, Nothing like that. I never prayed in a mosque or anything. So I was just very much Canadian, not religious. And then, you get older. I'm turning 34 this year, and after having a pretty Canadian lifestyle, a bunch of hockey player friends and going to all the parties and whatnot, you just feel a little bit, there's something missing. And I wanted to kind of get back to that. I'd say it became more clear during adulthood, like I'd say around 25. And I was, after the events of the past few years, there's no better time to um, do it. There's no better time to leave Canada. And it's something I was proud of. But yeah, just learning through adulthood, like I'd be at social occasions and out with friends, and there's just so many little cultural differences that I have, and they're little actions or whatever, but they're in me, they're genetic, like they're part of my heritage. So it's my opinion, it's not very wise to deny them. And yeah, so I just wanted to become a little closer and work with the community here. It's a very beautiful place. Nature is bountiful and abundant here. Yeah, so I'm very much enjoying it. We'll see how much longer I can make this happen.
Yeah, it's amazing having the nature, and it sounds like it's sort of, it wasn't just like wanting to move geographically, it was more of a maturation. And that was that, like, has that shown up in other aspects as well? Like, what were you doing career wise? Has that taken a turn much?
As far as since I've come back here.
Yeah, or just in general, like having the realization that you were different in some ways in Canada. Like, have you, what
For
other,
sure.
and you sort of made a pretty significant change. Has that been in any other ways?
Yeah, almost like 180. I professionally, I was working as a heavy equipment operator on the pipeline, working, 60, 50 hours minimum, usually 60 hours a week. Just dog eat dog, just trying to make as much money as I can, trying to compete with the Joneses. I'm trying to just basically lose half of my day, half of my time, and become sore and resentful of my job. And I always, similar to wanting to come back here, I always wanted to, fulfill my potential. I was always an athletic person. I played footy semi-professionally in Abu Dhabi in 2011. I played a few years semi-pro back in Canada. And then it got to the point where I had to decide, excuse me, if it was going to be pursuing football, going back to school, or working. And I went into a trade because I, had a girlfriend at the time and I needed money. So I got into heavy equipment, knowing nothing about that, and it was always kind of like a plan B, like a fallback plan for me. But 6, 7, 8 years later, six, yeah, and I was just like, okay, I gotta figure out, this isn't something I want to do full time. It's something that I always had a fallback plan to go back to, but I want to pursue my aspirations and my dreams. And I wasn't really giving myself a fair shot as a trainer and a coach because I'd be working full-time hours, heavy equipment. And yeah, so since 2018, I got my personal training certificate. I gave heavy equipment a break for about 6 months. I worked at a gym, and it was great. It was my first time being a trainer, my experience at a gym. But at the end of the day, it came down to financially, I needed to make more money. So I went back to the pipeline, kind of forgot about the training. And then I met ATG in 2021. And I was just like, this is blowing my mind. I'm learning more. I'm actually living proof of being more athletic, and, pain-free, injury-free. So in December of 2021, I came here, and for then it's been the first time I've went all in on personal training business and just entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Yeah. So I thought you'd been where you are in Iraq for longer than that. So it's pretty a recent change and going hard on it now. How's it? What's been the biggest difference so far? Like, you're obviously enjoying it much more, right?
Yeah, I love it. Dude, it's awesome here. Like the price of living is so minimal. The people here are so warm and so generous and so nice. The biggest thing that stands out to me to um, most other countries, like English speaking countries, I should say, is the language that they use. Like when people speak here, like in Canada, it's very different. Like it's very much, hey, how are you? Good, bad. And then when we play off that, you're either good, what's good about you? I want to know everything that's good about you. And it comes very competitive. It's like a win-loss mentality in language. And it's kind of unfortunate because the English language is so in depth, and there's so many, we don't really articulate that very well. It's just very generic. Here, like a man will say to a man, like, child magic, like, I'll kiss your eyes, or they'll say khojbi, like, thank your soul. The language is so different, and it's so warm on every interaction, that it's like when you're saying bye, it's like khwat lagal, it's like God be with you. So like it's just so warm, and it's just so generous, and that's something that every day I don't want to say goodbye to. Going back to conversations in Canada where my friends would very much make fun of you, or just joke around and stuff, and I don't know, it's totally different dialect, and that's been so one of the big things that I really enjoy here. But other than that, the people are very welcoming, and obviously I'm bringing ATG. ATG is like a new technology in engineering strength and performance in people and humans, and they're very like all eyes, like it's all new exercises, and they're really intrigued and picking my brain about it. So it's a win-win. Like it's pretty good.
Yeah, I noticed your use of language a bit earlier. You described nature as bountiful and abundant, and I saw the diversity of word choice, and it's just, there is so much more, and it's very limiting, right? You talked about your friends. It's joking, it's sort of dismissal, like casual disdain, and like Bruce Lee talks about your body doesn't know the difference between sarcasm or not. Every word you speak is true to your body, and I think we sort of underestimate the impact, especially thoughts, but also spoken words can have. Like the joking and the sake of like putting people down for a joke, or it's much more negative than most people realize. And I think it sort of trains you into it. Like it's very easy to just fall into that pattern and that habit, and then it's limiting, and it's you don't realize it until you sort of, it's easier to insult and reply with something negative than it is to continue a genuine and positive conversation. And was it goodbye to your soul or thank your soul? Like that's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah, 100%. It's those are just a few examples, but it's everything. Like when you say thank you, it's almost like they say rohi. Like rohi means my soul. So like it means you're pretty much saying to someone, you're my soul. It's there's so many translations that are just, if you can't really fathom it in conversation man to man in the Western world or anything. And I agree, there is like a lot of it's a negative feedback loop that once you take on those whether it be making fun of someone or joking about something, they're hard things to subconsciously kind of release from your system, and you have to be aware of what you're saying. And yeah, and it pertains to me a lot. A lot of my friends would kind of that was their humor on making fun of other people, and I'm not like that. And you realize it after taking a step back and bringing things to perspective and seeing the other side of what could be receiving, and it's not very nice, and it's just something that I want to stay away from. So yeah, it's been all positive here. I will eventually have to go back to Canada. There are some things I want to sell, but the goal is to get back here. But kind of dreading it, but it is what it is. I got some business to take care of back there. So
well, that's interesting because like there's ways of dealing with things, right? So if you see the negative of Canada, but you can see the negative of social media, and if you just delete social media from your phone, you've dealt with the negative side of things because it's just not in your life anymore. But what's that's one level of dealing with it, but a higher level is confronting it and facing it and having the negative there, but only taking the positive and only like and it participating in the dance and the battle between like obviously your sales in Canada or your untaken care of business. It's the positive, but you have to get through some clunky stuff in order to get to that. And like you, I mean, you said you were always different, but while you're in it, while you're in the negative, sometimes you don't realize. So you've already done like the first step of withdrawing, and then it's taking the step back, like observing that, and then consciously being a part of it. Because I was just thinking about myself. I have some friends that are the exact same way. And whilst that's their default humor, you can sort of, well, you do form friendships with them and you still have those relationships and you can share a good time, maybe to a lesser degree. But if you cut that out completely, it could be you've lost the negative, but you've lost any positive that might have been there. And so like it's an even higher position of strength and self-control to be able to consciously like not let it affect you and stuff. And I think that'd be challenging, as like I find when I still hang out with people who aren't the best influence or who are going towards negative things in life, the energy feeds itself. Like it's strange. I can be with a group of friends that are going nowhere and doing negative things, but if I spend time with them and then leave, I sort of miss that negative energy because it just pulls you down. It gives you a sense of loss in general. So they're just the negative energy, it's a feedback loop, right? And so the control, the self-control to like go through the pain or go through the difficulty rather than hide from it, or not even hide from it, but there's taking a step back and then there's taking a step through.
Yeah, you have to be aware through the whole process. Like we're omnipresent. You know, there are factors that take into consideration how we react, and maybe they pull us in. But at the end of the day, we are totally capable of going through it and being aware of exactly what it is that's affecting us, whether consciously or subconsciously. So like it's on us, it's always on us, and it's always going to be us that ourselves individually that can get ourselves out of situations that are maybe toxic and not causing us the positives are not outweighing the negatives at some point. And I'm not gonna lie, I say it with no humility, but I was using substances to numb myself from these situations, and it got to the point where I got so used to it. Like I burned a lot of my 20s like doing stuff that in hindsight we'll always look back and we wish we knew now what we uh knew back then, or vice versa there. But you know what I mean. But yeah, and those were just kind of vices to numb the pain. And in fact, what it did was make it worse and took a little toll on my physical health, body, my mental. And it came to the point where, you have to just confront these inconvenient truths, with love and peace and the same sort of critical thinking that you need to make reasonable choices. And that's what it came down to. And it, with what was going on in the world, and always kind of being aware that I was felt different and there was something missing, and the world shouldn't be this way, and we shouldn't be, you know, constantly in wars and eating bad food, sitting and on our phones all the time. Like there was just so much missing and so many answers. So it takes a little bit. What I would say is it takes a little bit of a spiritual awakening, and then if you're willing to confront that with love, um, you're really, you know, I think that's kind of a big answer that a lot of people have yet to discover.
Yeah, did you have a specific spiritual awakening, like a low point, or was there a specific turnaround? Like looking back on it, what do you think made the change?
Um, it was always kind of there. For me, it was after playing footy overseas, and I was really close. Like I was under a registration with a club called Al Jazeera FC. They're in Abu Dhabi, and you know I was Canadian, and the I had an in through my uncle, who well, he married my aunt, but he was a local in the Emirates, and you know, just kind of being familiar with the athlete life, seeing pros every day, seeing the cars every day at the stadium in Abu Dhabi. It was a beautiful stadium, shaking hands with all the first team pros and just training and being familiar with that. It was very close. And then when I kind of came back to Canada, it was always the plan to start strength training. Because that's, you know, that's when I really started after that, because I was just good at footy. I didn't, you know, I wasn't a fit guy. I was actually like Peter Crouch, if you're familiar with him, just like a tall rail, you know, skinny guy. But I was just good at soccer. And after that, I was like, I got to hit the gym. And the plan was always to go back. And then at that point, I had some spare time on my hands. I was young. I started looking into, you know, conspiracies and everything that's going on in the world and why it's like this. And I went down the rabbit hole for a long time, and I'm still, you know, there. I'm not as naive as I was when first reading about stuff, but I try to do my best to read both sides of the story and you know, make my own conclusions. But yeah, and then after that, it was just, you know, the world. I was depressed. I was in a place where it was like, oh, the world's kind of screwed up. Everyone's believing a lie. Um, let's just screw it. Let's just party and, you know, do things that are no good for me. And then probably, I'd say when I turned 30, it was kind of, that was oddly enough, that was a moment where I was just like, I don't really enjoy this anymore. I don't like it. I'm not enjoying the time I'm wasting, the social aspect of it. And then I just kind of stopped, and then I started reading more. That's when I kind of started doing a little bit more programmed scheduling for day-to-day structure, the gym. Um, yeah, and slowly but surely, the pandemic or plandemic, I should call it, definitely helped for me kind of own in on, you know, I gotta get a little kick in my butt and realize things, don't take things for granted. Um, let's really give ourselves a shot at building a business, living up to our potential, because we have a lot to offer if we really care about something and we're passionate. Go for it.
Yeah. There's a couple things I gotta say. The like the nihilism that sort of waking up to the world like brought you to. I see the struggle. It is, especially when you're like, I imagine your social group, not all of them like could see as well, like being surrounded by people that would happily live the lie, and then especially if you try share the lie and people don't want it, and people would rather live the ignorance is bliss. People would rather
Hmm.
live that. It reminds me of the carnivore Aurelius on Instagram. He had this a story where it was, when you first wake up to the lie, it's all about desperately manically showing it to everyone you can, or just trying to put the information out there, and then you come to peace with it. And then he contrasted that with the peaceful gardener who just waits to be asked, and then shares and teaches and is patient, and don't, like, people can't be made to learn. It's
Mhm.
you want to help people. I think the massive frustration is like coming from a place of love and then just having it denied or unwelcomed, or like accepting that other people are at different places to you is horrendously hard. Like, it's one of the most challenging things you can do is accept that even though you're trying to make something better for someone, it, it's you can't do that. You have to just let them do it for themselves. And yeah, so like that frustration leading to nihilism, and then I guess like a lot of people, it's just it's a crack. Like the current events are just bigger and bigger cracks, and it comes back to like yin and yang. The harder they push one way, the more people are going to go the other way. Like, there's people diving into the stories right now, like they live their lives that way, they get locked down, they accept everything that's going on, but at the same time they're going to a lower and lower place and buying in more and more. It's pushing those that are awake to it into better and better things, like self-sufficiency. If you're being denied what you're being denied, the camaraderie and the community that's coming out of people waking up. And now I'm at the point where I see they announce some new restriction or some whatever new bullshit is next. I'm just happy because I know that some people are going to fall for it, but at least a few more are going to wake up to it. And like the thing is, when you buy into those stories, you only buy into them until you get fucked over by them. Like, there's people that do what they're told to do and then suffered the massive consequences from it. And those people then tend to, well, either die or wake up to it. And they're the ones, like, when you come from the mistake, they have the most to share and they've done the most learning. And so at the same time, people dive in until they see that they have to wake up. So there's so much pressure and restriction and closing down that it just bursts and you're awake and you see it. And like ATG is a good way for seeing that. Like, you're not supposed to use your knees over your toes. Like, that's the mainstream line. And then suddenly you realize that the mainstream thing that every single person does is wrong. And the thing you're told not to do is the best thing that you could possibly do. And it all starts from there. And is that how you got into Uncom, through ATG?
Yeah, 100%. And I love the tandem and team that they create, both of them. What the dynamics of both bring to the table is so in line with my perspective and where I'm at. But I was there, man. ATG, like I was, compulsive. Don't train knees over toes. I would coach that, and I was just like, I never did the work. It was just one of those accepted, not truths, but accepted cues that coaches would give to other coaches. And yeah, and I just didn't really do it. I was never doing full knee bends. And then that's kind of led to, because before ATG, I was very much plateaued, and not only plateaued, but when I'd go to play footy again, I'd get injured. I'd pull a calf. A hamstring would come up short. I didn't know what I was doing wrong, because I was doing like a lot of strength training in the gym. I was putting up good numbers, but I wasn't utilizing the full knee bend. I wasn't creating, elasticity in my muscles. So I was never doing short and long range exercises. And yeah, so it's just been uphill learning that. And teaching it is something that I'm, very much I'm proud about. So it's wonderful. But going back to, you nailed it. I was definitely through that process of when I found out things were not exactly as I was told through, whatever societal institutions were teaching me. I was first like, okay, let's tell everyone, I got to get my benevolent clan, and I got to get everyone, we got to stop these guys. Things are getting bad and they're not going to be getting better. And then you realize how hard it is. Like, people don't want to be told what to do. Humans are like that. You can't just give them instructions or stuff. You gotta let them figure it out themselves, if they're willing to, if they want to. That's the big question. And then after that, it turned to nihilism. Like, I was just like, all right, screw it. I'm just gonna, fuck the world. Let's just all party and do whatever to ourselves and not care. And then I realized how lonely and how basically more events were happening that weren't going to go away, and I couldn't battle the system. I don't think that's the way to go. But yeah, I could be an example for my environment and my community. And if people do come along to pass on whatever sort of knowledge or tutelage I have to help others, and provide value to their lives. And then, yeah, ATG kind of exemplified that with strength training and with Uncom. It's been a blessing for me with the coaching and the business side of things that not just Keegan, everyone in that group brings along. And having, the resources of someone like you, someone like, the young guys, the Max, the Ethan, we have a bit of everything. We have, more diet guys. We have guys who are more experienced with gym ownership, and there's just, you can go down the line. And that's what I love about it. You could really, anytime you feel stuck or uninspired or you're lacking motivation, there's someone that's going to pick you up. And I've never really had that community personally. So it's I'm grateful, man. I count my blessings every day. So
Yeah. I'm guessing from your Peter Crouch reference, you were a striker when you played football?
uh, when I played overseas, I was. Naturally, I like to play center midfield. But yeah, that's also a difficult position to break on a team. Usually that's a position that most teams are set on. It's kind of the engine of the team, gets you in a good position defensively and gets you moving forward from defense to offense. So I was like, you know what, I'm tall, I got good height. I'm going to go in as a striker, and yeah, went well.
How tall are you?
Not huge, but soccer players aren't massive. I'd say about 6'1". Well, in centimeters, 184 centimeters.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed everything we've talked about so far, and it's that diversity of connection and communication, and like this type of conversation, I don't really have this with anyone I know in person yet, and I think Uncommon is the place to, I found more as I connect virtually, like it starts to kick off the in-person ones. Like when I just started with ATG, that's what led me to find the gym where I'm at, where people are awake at my gym too. Like the business owners I can have these conversations with. It's just where you set the intention, like it continues to create what you focus your attention on. And you can be wrapped up in the negativity and the fear and the loss and just all the, it's contraction versus expansion, like negative and positive. And the world just seems more and more limited the more you focus on its limits. And rather than do that, like go out and find the expansion. If you if you don't have an ATG coach in your area, learn ATG as much as you can, become the ATG coach. And it's that whole mentality of that, like taking that mentality to anything in life. If you don't have it, create it, find it, discover it, explore it. And we were talking about word choice earlier, and we still are like focusing on the positive. What's the word choice on your tattoos?
Yeah, it's a quote from Gandhi. So like I think I said earlier, I was never the big guy in the gym. I was always like pretty skinny. I've been through my fair share of bullying when I was younger. So it says strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from the soul's indomitable will. Face everything and rise. Um, Face everything and rise is not what Gandhi said. I added that. So it was just my acronym for fear. And it was just taught me, not to be scared of anything. If you want to do something, you can do it. Have that strength in your soul, and that's what's going to power you through it. And it was just something I read into that really inspired me, and I resonated to quite a lot.
Face everything and rise. I like that for fear. What's the other hand?
This is the Hamsa hand. This one?
Oh, I thought you have one on both. Do you?
No. Just the one on my left hand. I have a few others that are not too big. Do you have any tattoos?
Nah.
Nah, you can't mark this temple, huh?
Yeah, I think I will remain tattoo free. When did you get yours done?
So this would be 2000 after playing footy. 2013 was my first one, and I got them all within. I don't have too many, but I got all of them within about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. It was. I really like the quote, and I sort of.
Thank you.
I think of. It's quite cool because we were talking about the power of words, and it's a permanent expression, and it's a tattoo. It's like a part of you to continually put that out there, and it becomes a part of you. And the indomitable power of the will. Yeah. So it's saying that's what strength is, or that's what power is.
The soul's indomitable will. That's what strength is.
That's what strength is. Yeah.
Yeah. I used
Because
to after I got it, I would kiss my hand for a goal celebration both sides. That was like when I was probably wrapping up my Canadian semi-pro career. But now I used to always look down at it for a reminder, especially when it was fresh. I still do here and then, but it was something more fresh at the time.
yeah, and it gets back to like that's how strength should work now, is whatever the restriction is and whatever the falsity that's going on is, none of those are ever going to remove the indomitable power of the will, because it's your choice regardless. Like it's a mental choice, it's a physical choice. And you mentioned you count your blessings and stuff. Do you have any yeah, and so you weren't raised Muslim, but you come from a Muslim family. And has religion or spirituality ever been a part of your life?
No, I won't lie, it hasn't. I've actually opened my eyes to it more recently. I think there's a lot of beauty in it, but I think it's very simplistic. Most religions are, go about the same message, but have a different way of getting there. And it's sort of been altered by man for, whatever greed it may be. But I thought about it recently, becoming, actually learning how to pray. and seeing, just basically seeing how it makes me feel, seeing if I get any, um, how I respond to it spiritually. And I've always been, religion is bullshit, and I've always been not atheist but agnostic. Um, but now I'm still open to it, and I think it's just now it seems like there is such a big good versus evil fight, and you have to have a little, you have to follow God in some way. There is a higher power, and I totally believe that. I don't exactly know the answers, but I definitely have a little bit of a belief in it. And if praying and becoming more in tune with Islam is a route or an outlet for me, I would explore it. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally believe in perennial philosophy. So like we all come from one, we all are one, and we're all sort of on the return to one. And I think the human experience is designed from a higher power for the sake of showing us all these false individualized divisions between us. And you can't experience unity without witnessing separation. Like you don't know wholeness until you see all of the parts coming together. Like if everything was just whole, then it's just one thing. It's not a unity of things. It's just the one thing. So we have to be separate in order to realize that we are the same and that we are connected. And I think that's what the division going on currently is showing us more and more. It's false divides, and all the narratives are to emphasize the divisions, and in so many different ways. There's endless ways to divide us all, and that's because we are infinite. Like if everything is everything, like everything is one thing, we're all the same. We all come from it, and we're returning to it. And I think like human life is, we're at a point of you're supposed to realize your own separateness as a part of the whole. Like everyone is looking at their separateness. You've got a car, you've got clothes, you do your makeup, you focus on your looks, your differentness from the Joneses. Like, oh, I've got better this, better that. Better is a naming term and a description and a differentiating. And it's about witnessing all of that, accepting it, and realizing everyone's doing that. Like you're not Ethan or Range, you're another human, and there's 7 billion of us out there, sort of thing. And I think you can go down the negative path, and the people at top, the people emphasizing the division, and the controllers in whatever like positions they are, like who they are, you can debate around, but at the very top, yeah, it's negative, and they continue to believe in the separation, and that only negatively affects them because they're just limiting themselves. Division is limitation, and they're just putting themselves through it, and they're striving for more and more power atop their mighty throne. But if we're all so separate and only individual power matters, then you can't work with anyone because they're going to stab you in the back for more of their share of it. And so I don't think the majority of the world goes that way. I think that's a very small percentage. They're just in the right positions, and they're the extreme ones. Like I think you have the bell curve, right? And I think you have very extremely polarized negative, and then you have the positive, but a lot of people are just asleep in the middle right now. And that's what enables the negative to look so big, is just because, not that they're actually big, they're just really good at controlling the awake. And the positive, like love is unconditional and it's accepting. And so you have to love the negative people, the people that are trying to make things worse for everyone else. You have to love, accept, and understand the confused and the unpolarized and like the asleep. You have to accept and love them anyway. You have to wait for their awakening. You can't force it upon anyone. And so I think the human life is just realizing that ultimately we are one. And that's, if you believe in reincarnation or like multiple lives for a soul, then it's as many lives as it takes to realize that you're something more, we're a collective, we're something together. And I think ultimately that's what our energy is supposed to go through. We're just bundles of energy intentionally separated and divided so that we can see what the unity is, because you can't know unity until you know the separation, and we have to leave the wholeness to understand how to return to it. And it's like, you don't know something's a mistake until you've made the mistake. So there's no way to know that you're whole or we are complete, we're all together, until you see the opposite. And more people are seeing both sides of the story right now. And I start seeing more and more people come together. Like we see the division so heavily enforced, but that's what's creating this unity. Like Keegan put out this idea because of the division he saw being emphasized. So he had to create the togetherness. Like limitations breed creativity. And that's why games have rules, because if there's no limits in football and you could punch the shit out of the other team, you don't need to learn how to do a step over or a Ronaldo chop or Rabona, because you can just walk the ball into the goal. So why need it? So we're going through the process. Like that's what human life is. We're going through it all. You have to see all sides of the coin to realize that there even is a coin.
Yeah, beautifully put. And I like limitation is creative, or division is limitation. I like how you put that. And yeah, like no one individuals are the same. You know, we have to embrace our individuality, but at the end of the day, the one thing people that we need to do to get through this together is come together. And that's the one thing that so many people refrain from doing or just don't want to do, but it's the only way. It's we are the big human family, we are the big human race, and we are the same, and we're going to evolve the same. And there was a comment the other day in Uncom, I think it was in Uncom, or maybe it was, are you in the Stata chat as well, the
Yeah.
T-Build? Yeah, I think it was in that one. But someone said about, you know, if we find the powers that be, let me know, I'll assist in taking them out or whatever. And I had a laugh, but at the end of the day, I was thinking, if you had done that, you know, you took out the biggest powerful family in the world, then what? You know, you can't just play their game. You know, that's exactly kind of how they want you to act, like in desperation and fight or flight. That's a factor of the system that they've made, like violence and negative energy and those negative emotions. We have the capability right now to do everything we required to. We have the power, we are the masses, and it's only getting better and better because more people are getting enlightened and awakening up to their limiting belief system and questioning that. We have the capability right now to, you know, make alternative ways of living for ourselves and our community and branch out. It's all there. It's just we've been fed such, you know, compartmentalized thinking that we have to do life in such a certain walk of life that it's something we need to really question and evolve and kind of restore our ancient history. Like this book I'm reading here is a great one for it. don't know if you can read that, A Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century, Evolution and the Challenges of Modern Life. So it covers everything from medicine, food, basically how humans have evolved, the human niche, the human lineage. And it's right on line with what we're talking about here. But basically, we've gotten to a place where we're so divided, and it's not our fault, but we have to restore some of our values and belief systems that we can cooperate, and with cooperation, with ourselves, our community, and our ecological system, live in harmony with one another. And there's ways that are more advanced right now with the evolution of technology and everything we have at all the resources we have and all the education and knowledge we have to make something better. It's an evolutionary time. Like, humans are evolving, the world is evolving biologically, physically, everything that's happening right now. It's exciting. It's a little bit scary because things aren't slowing down on the other end too. The catastrophes that are going on in the world, we can't deny them, but they're also like, it's gonna collapse. We cannot continue to go in that route. So I'm excited for what's to come, and I'm optimistic, and I'm happy to be a part of communities that are aligned with wanting to help and see the best side, the better side for humans. But I think we got to brace ourselves a little bit. It's not going to be. It seems like it's still going down pretty rocky in terms of world events and catastrophes. So equipping ourselves with the strong tools and the strong communities, our mental health, our physical health, to prepare for this stuff and understand it's still happening and not going away, I think is essential.
Yeah, I believe Keegan sent a message about the revolution of the printing press, and that kicked off like a 30 or 40-year war because it was just so significant, and information suddenly was so much vaster. It just, times changed that much that it had to turn into chaos and a restructuring of everything. And complexity always breeds simplicity, and simplicity breeds complexity. So when you're in the simple times, the good times, things start building and you become
Yes.
naturally more prosperous. And the prosperity builds and builds and builds until it starts to become too much to manage. And it crumbles under its own weight. And we're seeing that right now. And you go through the peaks and the valleys, and I think we've come through like a lot of the good times, and they've built so much that it just has to, like the financial crises that have been held off multiple times since the 30s essentially. And then like all the new energy like telephones and internet, and there's just so much going on that it needs a restructure, and new systems have to collapse before old ones can be built. And so we're going through the crumbling of an old era right now. And like the web is the printing press of today, and it might cause wars again if we let it. But like the complexity of the internet right now, that's what breeds Web 3.0, and the simplicity of the crypto space in the future, and everything connecting much more seamlessly, or just doing things smarter in the first place. Like the complexity of Bitcoin and the transaction fees breeding networks like Theta and Ethereum to make it simpler and less gas fees sort of thing. And yeah, like I think you have good times which result in too much going on, which then collapses into a form of a better good time. Like, so it goes up in steps, and there's collapses in between, but each collapse is at a higher place. And depending how deep rabbit holes we go, like free energy or water powered cars or like technology that we already have or is sort of could exist or might be being suppressed or could come to us if only it wasn't for certain things, then I definitely think we're going to a better place. We definitely be better off going back to the basics a bit more. Like I was driving home and I drove past the supermarket and I just thought like how much the world would turn to shit if supermarkets like just weren't open. It'd just the scramble to go find a cow or just something to kill, it would be insane. And so the dependency has been breeding more and more dependency for years. And I think we'll be pushed where Charles Schwab, you'll own nothing and be happy, will be pushed to where they want you to be dependent on for every single thing. But that just collapses. It's too much. It's gonna like, that's the problem with the negative system is it's divided, it's limiting, it's collapses under its own weight. It's full of backstabbing. And the only thing that can continue, and like I believe, so we all came from something, we're all going back to that same thing. The way we're going just is. It's not positive or negative. It just is. It's acceptance and the tolerance, acceptance, and face everything and rise. If you're doing that, like just facing it, accepting it, taking it on, and being present through it, like that's the path. And I don't think there is failure whilst on that path. Like that, it's just not part of it. It's just meeting it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Again, beautifully said. Like people, if you just realize, that on the other side of fear is where the magic happens. That's where you're learning, the exploration, the adventure, growth happens, and we stand in our comfort zone. Like we don't want to face fear. We're scared of it. We just want to hide in our, four walls in our nice home and not attempt anything, any of those limiting beliefs. But that's the big, like that actionable step. It's right in your hands. If you make that, I think that's when you open up a whole new world of ideas and beliefs and learning and moments. But yeah, what I'm concerned about is you're talking about limitation. If we didn't have supermarkets or something like that, the thing that worries about me is this thing is if like you take that thing away from someone, like people like die, people will not know what to do. Like, oh, I don't have my phone, I can't Google anything, I don't know what to do with myself. We're so reliant on these like tools that are just limiting us and making things more convenient and lazy. And people say that they're not good with their hands or they haven't gotten their hands dirty. Well, no, that's not quite right. I mean, you just haven't really given yourself the opportunity to learn that skill. Everything takes repetition. You're not going to be great at it your first time, but if you're willing to learn, that's the first step. And everyone just wants to look at whatever's popping up on their feed and that internet of information. And so that the more reliant you become on that, the more you put your hand or your life into other people's hands. And that's not a comfortable place to live in.
Yeah, like the rice method, rest, ice, compress, elevate, like, or just the fact, like giving someone who's been in an accident a cast, or like, yeah, putting a cast over a bone, like stopping using it doesn't heal it. Or when you, I don't know, like sometimes when you strap or tape an injury and give it that support, well, then it starts not doing the work. And just the becoming on the other methods, like the more dependent you are on something, the less yourself you are and the less free you are. So all these technologies which have helped us and opened us up to so much have also made us dependent at the same time. Like, you don't know how to experiment. Everything is just a Google away, which means that everything is just a Google away from being denied from you and being,
That's exactly right.
yeah, you, like, we're prevented from experiencing it and learning it. And I look forward to the collapse, honestly. Like, there'll be tough stuff, there'll be hard things, but there'll be lessons learned. And it's so massive, like the ways that our independence and sovereignty has been taken away, it just will increase dramatically the change and the effect that it has when we have to, like, take it back. And we step into it, we step into the struggle, and on the other side of fear is the excitement and the joy. And the more fear there is, the more there's for us to jump into. And I'm gonna have to wrap it up. It's dark outside, it's bedtime, but I loved this. I really enjoyed, like, the depth of this one. Like, I've connected with a lot of other coaches and I wasn't sure what we're going to talk about, but this has been really impactful for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's do this again if you're keen. I would love to talk with you more. Likewise, I don't have too many in-depth conversations, and you're a very smart young lad. And yeah, we could continue this another time. We didn't even get to talk about there's so much, our goals, yourself more in ATG, where you're at with your business and strength training. So there's lots more we could talk about that I'm sure if you're down, we could get into down the road.
Yeah, make a Calendly, bro. Definitely make one. And also, there was some really helpful stuff that I think could be helpful for other people, and I've sort of turned these calls into podcasts. So I record for my own reference to look back on. But are you all right if I do share?
Yeah, sure, man. No problem. No
Yeah,
problem at all.
I'm definitely keen for more of these. And this depth of conversation, yeah, it doesn't happen much, but I feel like we're just going to go forward, and we've just stepped into it mentally. And when you focus, I said, when you focus on the connection, even if it's virtual, or if you focus on and set the intention on the good things in any way, it comes back to you more in other ways. So I'm super grateful for this, and I hope you have a fantastic and productive day.
Likewise. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your conversation. I look forward to the next one, brother.
See you, man. Bless your soul.
Take care.